I want to tell you about two people I've observed over the course of my career. The first person works constantly. He's up early, stays late, fills every hour of his day with activity. He checks his messages the moment he wakes up. He responds to everything immediately. He's in meetings, on calls, managing problems, handling situations, putting out fires. At the end of every day, he's exhausted. At the end of every week, he feels like he gave everything he had. At the end of every year, he has very little to show for it financially, and he cannot fully explain why. The second person seems, from the outside, to work less. You can't always reach him immediately. He doesn't attend every meeting. He doesn't respond to every email within minutes. He has long periods of what looks, from the outside, like nothing, time where he isn't visibly productive in any way that other people can observe or measure. And yet, year after year, his financial position improves. His decisions compound. The things he built 3 years ago are paying off now in ways that require almost no additional effort from him. The difference between these two people is not intelligence. It's not work ethic, not discipline, not ambition. Both of them work hard. Both of them care about what they're doing. The difference is something more fundamental, and it took me years of watching this pattern repeat across thousands of people before I understood what I was actually seeing. The first person is busy. The second person is productive. And busy and productive are not the same thing. In fact, in many of the cases I've observed, they're nearly opposite things, and because busyness beyond a certain point actively prevents the kind of thinking that produces real wealth. I want to explain exactly why, not as a theory, as a mechanism. Because once you understand the mechanism, you'll start seeing it everywhere. In your own daily patterns, in the people around you, in the structures that shape how most people spend their time without ever asking whether the spending is actually working. The first thing you need to understand is what busyness actually is at its core, because most people have never examined it this carefully. Busyness is a state in which your time and attention are primarily allocated to responding to what's already happening, to things that exist, that are demanding attention, that are creating pressure right now. Emails require responses. Problems require solutions. Meetings require attendance. Customers require service. Crises require management. All of these things are real. All of them feel urgent, and all of them have something in common. They were created by the past, they exist in the present, and they produce almost no leverage on the future. This is the critical distinction that most people miss. There are two fundamentally different categories of work. The first category is maintenance, the work required to keep things as they are, to prevent deterioration, manage existing commitments, respond to existing demands. This work is necessary. Without it, things fall apart, but it produces no improvement in your position. At best, it keeps you where you are. The second category is what I call generative work, the kind of thinking, learning, building, and decision-making that creates something that didn't exist before. A new system, a new understanding, a new investment, a new skill, a new relationship with someone who changes what's possible for you. This work is also necessary, and unlike maintenance, it compounds. The good decision you make today keeps paying off for years. The system you build this month keeps running without your daily attention. The understanding you develop now changes every subsequent decision you make. Here is the problem. Maintenance work is urgent. It announces itself, demands attention, and produces immediate negative consequences if ignored. Generative work is almost never urgent. It can always be postponed. It produces no immediate negative consequence if skipped today. And so, in any given day, when you have to choose between the urgent maintenance work and the non-urgent generative work, maintenance wins every time, because the pressure is all on one side. And this is how the busy person's life works. Not through laziness or lack of discipline, through a rational response to a system of pressures that is unfortunately designed to keep you exactly where you are. When I was building Bridgewater, I noticed something that bothered me for years before I understood it. The people who were most visibly busy, who were in the office longest, who responded to everything fastest, who were most present in every meeting, were rarely the people who produced the most value. The people who produced the most value often worked differently. They were harder to reach. They protected blocks of their time with unusual intensity. They said no to things that others would never think to refuse. They seemed, to anyone watching casually, almost underemployed. But when you looked at what they were actually producing, the quality of their thinking, the decisions they were making, the things they were building that would pay off years later, there was no comparison. The visibly busy people were generating activity. The apparently idle people were generating outcomes. I started asking what was actually different between them, and the answer came down to something simple and devastating. The busy people were spending their cognitive resources on the work that was in front of them. The productive people were spending their cognitive resources on the work that mattered most, and they had designed their days so that the urgent, visible maintenance work could not consume the time and attention reserved for the generative work. This is not a time management insight. It is a resources insight. Your cognitive capacity, your ability to think clearly, to analyze complex situations, to make good decisions, is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day and is restored by rest. Every email you respond to, every meeting you attend, every crisis you manage, every interruption you absorb, these things cost you cognitive resources, not dramatically, not individually, but cumulatively. They determine whether you have anything left at the end of the day for the kind of thinking that actually builds wealth. Most people spend their best cognitive hours, the hours when their mind is freshest, clearest, and most capable of the kind of thinking that creates leverage, on maintenance work, clearing inboxes, attending meetings that could have been emails, managing situations that someone else could have managed, and by the time they get to the generative work, if they ever do, they're running on empty. The thinking is shallower. The decisions are lower quality. The investment in their own future is made with whatever is left after the present has taken everything it wanted. Here's what I've observed about how wealth is actually built, and it's different from what most people believe. Wealth is not primarily built through effort. It is built through leverage, through finding ways to make your time, your money, or your knowledge work for you rather than requiring constant reinvestment of your labor to maintain. A salary requires you to show up every day, an investment does not. A business system requires you to build it once and then manage it, not rebuild it from scratch daily. A skill compounds. The more you develop it, the more value each unit of effort produces. All of these forms of leverage share something in common. They require upfront generative work that produces no immediate return in exchange for returns that arrive later and continue arriving without proportional additional effort. The busy person almost never gets to this upfront work, not because they don't value it, because the urgent maintenance work never stops, and the generative work never announces itself as an emergency. You can always learn the thing tomorrow. You can always make the investment next month. You can always have that conversation about the new opportunity next week. And next week, the same thing happens again. This is the core trap, and it's not a moral failing, and it's a structural one. The system of modern work is designed largely without intention to maximize maintenance and minimize the time and space available for generative thinking. Constant connectivity, constant availability, constant response expectations. These things are described as productivity, but they are often the opposite of it. They are the machinery of busyness, and they produce the feeling of work without producing the substance of wealth creation. I want to give you something practical here because understanding a problem is only the first step. The people I've watched build real financial freedom, not the performance of it, but the actual accumulated capacity to live without selling their time indefinitely. Almost all of them did something specific that most people never do. They audited their time with the same rigor they would apply to auditing their finances. If you were losing money every month, you would want to know exactly where it was going. You would track every expense. You would identify the ones that were producing value and the ones that were simply consuming resources. You would cut the consumption and redirect toward the production. Most people never do this with time. They know vaguely that they're busy. They feel it. But they could not tell you with any precision what percentage of their weekly time goes toward maintenance work and what percentage goes toward generative work. They could not tell you what the ratio is between work that keeps them where they are and work that moves them forward. I'll tell you what I've observed when people actually do this audit for the first time. The ratio is almost always shocking. 80, 90, sometimes 95% of their active time is going to maintenance. The meetings, the emails, the administrative tasks, the social obligations, the reactive management of situations created by past decisions. 5 to 20%, sometimes less, is going toward anything that will meaningfully compound. And this ratio, held constant over years, produces a specific outcome. Your skills may develop slightly, your income may grow marginally, but the fundamental structure of your financial life, the ratio of your labor to your returns, stays roughly the same. Because you are investing almost all of your finite resources in preserving the present rather than building the future. Here's the shift that changes this, and it's simpler than most people expect. Treat your generative time as a non-negotiable commitment that the rest of your schedule must work around, rather than as something you get to after the real work is done. The real work is not the maintenance. The maintenance is what's necessary to not lose ground. The real work, the work that actually builds wealth, is the generative thinking, learning, investing, and building that you do in the time you protect, specifically for that purpose. What does this look like practically? It looks like identifying specifically what the highest leverage activities in your life actually are. Not the most urgent, the most generative. The activities that, if done consistently over time, would compound most significantly toward the financial outcome you want. Learning a specific skill, building a specific system, making a specific category of investment decisions, developing a specific professional relationship. Then it looks like protecting time for those activities before the maintenance work can consume it. Not at the end of the day, with whatever cognitive energy is left. At the beginning, or in a protected block that maintenance is explicitly not allowed to enter. Then, and this is the hardest part, it looks like actually reducing the maintenance load, delegating things that don't require you specifically, declining meetings that don't produce decisions, setting response expectations that protect your time rather than signaling unlimited availability, letting some things resolve themselves rather than consuming your resources to resolve them faster. None of this feels productive in the way that busyness feels productive. Busyness feels like work. Protecting time for generative thinking often feels like not working, especially in cultures that treat visible activity as the proxy for value. But here's what I've learned, watching this pattern over 50 years. The feeling of busyness and the reality of progress are not the same thing, and are often inversely related. The busiest people I've known have frequently been the ones making the least actual progress. And the people who seemed almost uncomfortably unbusy, who protected their time with what looked like arrogance to people who didn't understand what they were doing, were often the ones building the most. The final thing I want to say about this is the one that ties everything together. Wealth, real, lasting, compounding wealth, is not a reward for working hard. It is a reward for thinking clearly about what to work on. Most people never make this distinction. They operate on the implicit belief that more effort produces more result, that the way to get ahead is to do more, that busyness is the mechanism by which financial progress happens. And so they get busier. They fill every available hour. They respond to everything. They attend everything. They work until they're exhausted, and they use their exhaustion as evidence that they deserve to be further ahead than they are. But the market and life more broadly does not reward effort, it rewards outcomes. And outcomes are produced not by the volume of your activity, but by the quality of your decisions and the degree to which those decisions compound over time. The person who makes 10 high quality decisions about where to invest their time, money, and attention, and then lets those decisions compound, will outperform the person who makes 1,000 low quality decisions made in the gaps between maintenance tasks every single time over any significant period. This is not comfortable to hear if you have built your identity around being a hard worker. I understand that, but I would rather tell you the uncomfortable truth than the comfortable fiction, because the comfortable fiction is exactly what's keeping most people exactly where they are. You're not behind because you haven't worked hard enough. You're behind because almost all of your work has been maintenance, and maintenance by definition does not move you forward. The moment you understand this, really understand it, not just intellectually, but in the structure of how you actually spend your days, is the moment the trajectory actually changes. Not because you start working harder, because you finally start working on the right things.